I've called it Ask Me Anything. So you can ask me anything within reason. We always have to caveat it, within reason. So anything about writing, about publishing, about my book series, about anything that's been happening. Actually, I have a moan about anything that's been happening in publishing world. So I think it was yesterday. I think yesterday I gifted an article. I gifted a New York Times article, and it was an interview with the author James Frey. And if you don't know James Frey, or if his name is ringing a little bell in your head, I think it was about 20 years ago, something like that. He maybe 21, oh no, it's about 20 years ago. He wrote a book, A Million Little Pieces. I may have got the title wrong, but it's A Million Little Pieces. And it was described as a memoir. Everyone loved it, critical acclaim, Oprah's book club. Once you got the Oprah book club stamp, you got the Oprah bump, which meant that you leaped to the New York Times bestsellers list. It got optioned. It did get made into a film, but it got options. So it got everything that you would want as an author, all the accolades, all the critical accolades, and the financial rewards. James Fake, Mark's Day. Yeah, and then it turns out, because his memoir was about being a drug addict and, going to rehab and all of that. And it turned out that he'd made up a lot of it. So a lot of it was fiction. It was fake, about his intervention, being arrested by the police and things like that. And he got called out, quite rightly so. Because, you can't call it a memoir and then make stuff up. So he gets called out for this memoir. Oprah brings him back onto her show and basically has a go at him, quite rightly. And, he disappears. But then he comes back and he keeps coming back. And he came back and he's got a new book. And for the life of me, I cannot remember what the new book is called. But last week, there's a subscription service in the States called Book of the Month. And back in 2023, James Frey had said that he uses AI. And, he explained the ways in which he uses AI. All problematic as far as I'm concerned, but he uses AI. And now he's got a new book. The publishers say he didn't use AI for this book, but how can you be sure? How can you be sure? Anyway, New York Times does an article with him, a whole profile piece. And it was just the arrogance, the absolute arrogance and entitlement that shone through in that piece. And what I just don't understand is that why would you give someone like that a platform? I mean, there's so many other authors out there. So many other authors, debut authors, mid-list authors putting out amazing work, and they need that little push, that little bit of spotlight shining on them. But yet you chose to give it to him, and he's just arrogant in there and no remorse whatsoever. So that was my little moan. So if you had read the piece or heard about the piece, what do you think? So that was my first moan. My first moan of the week in regards to James Frey. So Jordan Acosta said, how do you feel about posting short stories on your website, especially if you're not published? Would you advocate submitting to literary magazines instead? I can't see why you can't do both, to be honest. You can post them on your sorry, Mark said controversy sells, sadly. Yes, it does. But yeah, Jordan, back to your question. I think that you can do both. You can post them on your website, post them on your Substack, and also at the same time submit to literary magazines. So unrelated question. Mark said, you said you're not been writing while you recover, but have you been thinking about writing plots, characters? Yeah, oh my God, yes. I have been, because I think the thing about being a writer, you're not just a writer when you're sitting at your desk in front of your computer. Your mind is always going. So I've been continuously, and I think probably sometimes when you do take yourself away from your place of work, you kind of give yourself room to breathe and to think. So I've been thinking about different stories that I want to write. I've been thinking about characters and what I'm going to do with them, like in my series. Like my editor, I say between me and you, like my editor, she wants me to kill someone off in my series, and I'm very, very resistant to it. Very resistant to it. and I won't do it yet. It won't be in the next book. It probably won't be in the book after that. But I have been thinking, I was like, okay, maybe I could remove someone and the ways in which it could be done. So I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about the plot for other projects I've started writing. Well, I had started writing, and also standalone that I'm going to start writing in September. So even though I haven't been sitting at my desk, I have been, yeah, I have been working. The brain has been working. So there's that. Anything else you want to ask me about writing and publishing? And I'm trying to think what else I've been up to. Oh, so right now also it's festival season. So tomorrow, I'm not doing loads of festivals this year because there was one year, I think it was 2022. Yeah, it was after COVID. So 2022, 2023, I felt like I literally was everywhere. I went everywhere, did everything. So I think as a debut, well, when you are debuting and it's your second book, it's all about trying to build your platform because you want people to find you and you want people to buy your books. So I did say yes to everything. And by the end of 2023, I was absolutely exhausted. I was so knackered. And I thought I can't be doing that again in 2024 and 2025. So this year, I'm not doing that many festivals, but tomorrow, I'm doing Capital Crime in London. And what am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, I'm moderating a panel with Linwood Barkley and Andrew Charles. So that's going to be really good. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I think on Tuesday, what am I doing Tuesday? I'm doing Slaughterfest. Which again taking place in London. Oh, my TV came on, and for the life of me, I cannot remember. No, who am I on the panel with? I'm on the panel with. I can only remember one person. I'm on the panel with AA Dand. But I can't remember anything else about that. And then what else have I got? I'm going to Bradford on the 9th of July for Bradford Literary Festival, and our panel's called Global Queen. So I'm on a panel with Kia Abdullah, who's a thriller writer, and Simon Mer, who's another thriller writer. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I've got Harrogate, or the Theakston's Oh Peculiar Crime Festival. I've got that in. When is that? My brain's not working properly because I've been on so much medication, so things disappear. Hold on, when is I think that's the 17th of July. I'm going to Harrogate to do that. So that's what I'm going to be up to. But I'm trying to think what other I can't speak. Controversial moments have taken place in publishing. I think Luke Bateman. So James Fry, whatever his name is, was the first one, and it is, and Mark's right. Controversy, unfortunately, does sell, and it's very unfair. It's very unfair that someone like him's given a platform, and he's allowed to revel in his controversy. And I hate this term, being a literary bad boy, which I just think is a load of nonsense anyway. But another bit of controversy we had recently in publishing was the story. I say the story, but it's the story of Luke Bateman. Oh, I'm going to come right back because someone's knocked my door. Hold on 1 second. I'm back. That was Amazon. You could tell this in real time. Yeah, that was Amazon delivering my nephew's present. Right. So Luke Bateman, if you hadn't heard of Luke Bateman, so he's this book talker. I just sound like I'm just gossiping on Substack, but I am. So he's a book talker, and he only joined Book Talk in April. And then since joining in April, he's got 175. Jordan said future plot. Streamer goes to answer door, disappears. That's such a good plot though. That is such what happened? Where did they go? Right, so Luke Bateman, he's a book talker, Australian, joins in April, gets 175,000 followers. There's no issue with that. Um, as far as I can work out, he's a farmer, but he's also ex-rugby player, and he was a contestant on the Australian version of The Bachelor. I've never watched The Bachelor, but there's neither here nor there. So anyway, gets a massive following talking about his love of fantasy books, which is fine, absolutely fine. And then he pops up and announces that he's got a book deal with an imprint of Simon and Schuster in America, not in America, in Australia. And everyone goes a little bit crazy. And the reason why they go crazy, and I understand this. I mean, look, everyone's got a hustle, right? And you're always looking for a way to get into publishing. You're looking for ways to get into book deals. And if you get offered a book deal, who am I to say, no, you shouldn't take it? But I think what people took issue with, and what I think a lot of people don't understand, this is where it goes to this whole thing about entitlement and privilege, is that there are so many talented writers out there. And I'm not even just talking about aspiring writers. They're trying to, they're going through that query process, trying to get an agent. And if they've got an agent, they're going through the submission process, trying to get their book, get a book deal with a publisher. And right now, I've got friends who they were out on submission for a year before they finally managed to get a deal with a publisher. So, it's not an easy process. There are some occasions when it can happen really quickly. You do get the dream of you write your book, you sign up an agent, your book goes out on submission, and just like that, you're in an auction, which means multiple publishers want your book. You get an amazing deal, you get the TV options, you get all of this. So you do some people you can have the dream, but with others it's hard. And what people were upset about and what they took issue with was the fact that this man who happens to have this large following overnight, and it's expressed his love for reading fantasy, has just been given a book deal because of his platform. And it's really hard because I will always say to writers, anyone who asks me, if they'll ask if they need a platform, if they need to have a social media following before an agent would even look at them or before a publisher would give them a book deal. And I always say no. Like, I don't feel like you need to have 10,000 followers before a publisher will look at you. I don't know what you think, Mark, but when I signed with my agent, all of my social media platforms were on. Oh, he's been called away. You're welcome. Bye. Yeah, when I was on, before I signed with my agent, all of my social media platforms were on private. And even once I signed my deal, all of my social media platforms were on private. So the only people who could engage with me were literally family and friends and the random people who happened to find me. So I always maintain you don't need to have a large social media platform or even have a social media platform at all in order to have a publishing deal. So it's very hard to argue that point and keep arguing that point when someone like Luke Bateman pops onto TikTok and then in 2 months after having 175 followers, he had just been given a publishing deal. And people quite rightly took issue with that. And a lot of people were taking issue with the fact that they're saying he's a white man, and there's so many, I say, not only just people of color and people from the LGBTQ community, so many people trying and just finding the whole process hard. And it's not nice. It's not nice. And then there were some people like they couldn't see what the problem is. Because in their words, he seemed like a nice guy. Yes, he seemed like a nice guy. But that's not the point, is it? It's not the point. It's very hard for anyone else to feel like they can find a way to have their voices heard when it feels like priority's been given to people who don't really need it. Well, he didn't need it. He did. And as well, also in addition to that, who knows what he's been doing in private? Maybe he has been writing away. Maybe he has got novels on his desktop, And he has gone through that submission process and faced rejection. I don't know, because you don't know what happens behind closed doors. But on the surface, it looks like he's not shown any interest in writing, not expressed any desire to write a book. And now here we go. So those are the two recent controversies in publishing. So you got 5 of you here today, which is nice. It's nice. It's always nice to have anyone just come along and join. So I normally do these for like half an hour. So if there's anything else that you want to ask me about writing, publishing, my own publishing and writing journey, my books, and what am I doing at the moment? So I said at the moment I've been off for the last few weeks because I've been recovering from a hospital procedure. So there's that. Monday I'll be back at my desk writing, and I'm looking forward to it because I've been away for so long. I haven't written a word. I haven't written a word since, what month are we in? We're in June. I don't think I've written a word since like last week of May, something crazy like that. Mm-hmm. And it's hard when you are a creative person, you want to, realise that I miss it. Like I really miss it. But as I said, it doesn't mean I've been quiet. Like I have been jotting notes and making little plans and coming up with something pops into my head. I've been writing it down. Oh, that's another thing. AI. So was I talking to someone? I never was talking to someone. Or I don't know if I was talking to someone or there was something I read, and it's all about how people are using AI and how writers are using AI. And obviously I have an issue with using artificial intelligence as a writer, because what ChatGPT and all these other ones I don't know about do is that obviously the only reason they can provide answers is because they're using the content illegally of our work. And someone did say this to me. Someone said to me that they use AI. I'm like, okay. But they don't use it to write their books. I'm like, okay. So what do you use it for? And they're like, just to brainstorm and plot. And I was like, in my head thinking, why? The best part of writing, I love the planning process. I'm very much a planner, but I love that idea, not that idea. I love that time. Exactly, Jordan. Why? Before I start a project, before I start my book, I plan. And before we even get to that point, I mean, I'm jotting down ideas. So, my projects, like my book, it always starts with a scene. That's how it begins for me. So a scene pops into my head. So with my last book, The Kill List, I had this scene in my head of basically it was a man who was dying, literally was on his deathbed. And he was asked, do you have any last words? And his reply to the question was, I didn't do it. So once that scene popped into my head, I then have questions. I'm like, well, what didn't he do? And what's he dying of? And so all these questions start forming in my head. And that's the brainstorming time. And that's the best bit of being a writer and writing a book. So then I sit there with my notebook and I am making these notes. Characters are popping into my head. Because it's part of a series, it's like, okay, so how does this fit into the series? How does this affect my main characters in my series? And that's the brainstorming bit. And for me, that's the fun bit. And I think that's going to be the fun bit for a lot of writers. So the idea of, I don't know what you think. Actually, I can see what you think in the comments. But the idea of using AI to brainstorm, no, I'm putting a face, it doesn't make sense to me. So Jordan says, I know this. So the bathrobe guy says, oh, I've lost it. How does this even work? He said people have used other people to help brainstorm, do editing, and help with outline for centuries. Using AI the same way is not wrong. I don't agree. What are you? I mean, you talking to chatbot, you say to chatbot, I don't even know how you'd even do it, because the idea has to formulate in your head first. Jordan says everyone wants a medal, but no one wants to run the race. The process is the point. And I agree, the process is the point. And then Bathrobe Guy said, having it right for you, that I find, yeah, obviously having it right for you, AI is wrong because it's not your words. If you're asking it to write, okay, write me a scene, write me a deathbed scene. That's not you. That's just a computer using someone else's words, maybe my words, my friend's words, in order to create a new scene. But I don't get the brainstorming bit. I don't get the using it to plot, because the brainstorming is you working through different ideas, seeing where it fits, coming up with different characters. So what do? Talking to ChatGPT and say, oh, I need to come up with a new idea. And I need a new idea for the book. Okay, what number am I in my book series? So book 4 is coming out in February. Book 5 and 6 I've already planned. So I need a new idea for book 7. And it needs to involve this character. And I need a new police investigation. And then it spews out what? So, no, I'm not. I'm happy for you to disagree with me, but I think I just find using AI to brainstorm and plot to be extremely problematic, because it's not going to be anything original there, I don't think. Um, I don't know. I'm just reading the comments. If I've gone quiet, so it says the Bathrobe Guy says, yes, you must have the idea. The chatbot cannot come up with your idea for you. You have to tell it the idea. It can then help you brainstorm and come up with outlines and such. But why can't you come up with your own outlines? Sorry, I sound a bit aggressive there, but I think that's the whole beauty in being a writer and being a creative writer, is coming up with your own outline. And if it doesn't work, then it forces you to think again, okay, why isn't this working? Let me look at different pathways. Let me try a different approach. Um, yeah, mm, I clearly have an issue with it, which is why he says some of us are not good at coming up with outlines. But I think everyone's different. I mean, I had to do a lot of trial and error to work out my way, what is the best way of working for me as a writer. So, I tried the pantsing, where you just sit at your computer, sit in front of your keyboard, whatever, and you just pants. And and it's not unusual, I got to 20,000 words, always around that 20,000 word mark, and I wouldn't go anywhere. I have no idea what's going on, no idea where my plot is supposed to go, no idea what my characters should be doing. So pantsing doesn't work for me. Having a plan and we're having a clear structure works for me. But outlining something that you can learn, I mean, there's this ridiculous amount of books out there you can use. And even and this is why I read whenever you ask for advice from writers, they will always say read as widely as you can, because it's from reading that's where you can learn about the structure of a book. That's where you can see how you could form the outline of a book, see what makes up the skeletons of a romantic comedy or a sci-fi novel or a crime novel or a literary. So I've got another comment. Should those who are not as skilled be punished for it? No, I don't. Look, one thing I know, and this is what I learned from self-publishing my first book, right? And even just from being a lawyer, everyone's got different skill sets. Everyone's got different skill sets. But it's only through trial and error that you learn what your skill sets are. But I do think that asking ChatGPT or any other I don't know what they're called, search engine thing, to brainstorm for you, because I said that initial creative start to your novel, to your work, I think that should come from you. And there's just so many different ways of you learning and finding techniques. And I know you say that's what I'm saying, not everyone learns the same. Not everyone does learn the same. I always say I have a very linear brain. I like to go from A to B to C to D. And that's the way I learn. Some people are much more visual. and they learn visually, which is why you get some people who love doing the whiteboards with the post-it notes all over the place. Oh no, I see. I'm not going to agree with you. So people even use ghostwriters. People say the work is theirs. I won't say the work is theirs. If you've used a ghostwriter, I'm not going to say that the work is not yours. All that's happening is that you've put a name to it. Well, your name has been put to it. Um, I mean, the problem is, so the parakeets are flying around in my garden. I say the problem is, we live in a day and age, we live in a time now where everything is easily exposed. Whereas before everything happened behind closed doors, we didn't know. It's like the Wizard of Oz. We had no idea what was going on behind the curtain. Now we're in 2025, we know exactly what's going on behind the curtain, and we can see when shortcuts have been taken. But I don't think I would never say if someone's ghostwritten a book. I know books that have been ghostwritten. I know the ghostwriters. And I wouldn't turn around and say that the author's name who appears on the book is the person who wrote the book. But no, you're not trying to argue. We are having healthy debate. We're having healthy discussions, which is how it should be. This is how things were before people got carried away on keyboards and became keyboard warriors. We're all going to have our different points of views in regards to AI and how people use AI. I mean, I can't speak how people use AI. I know like the most simplified thing for people to say is that, well, spell check is AI. Yeah. It is. But sometimes I don't even agree with spell check and their spelling suggestions and their punctuation and grammar suggestions. So yeah, it's a very interesting time, I think, to be alive as a writer. And obviously people are gonna you're always gonna find ways to help you. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Um, but also I think what is quite interesting now is the amount of people who are quite open. Which again, I suppose there's nothing wrong with that. Who are quite open about using AI um, in their work. Some people say they just simply use it for research. Again, I then find that problematic because I teach legal research to the baby lawyers, and I have to say to them, ChatGPT is not reliable. It's not reliable, and I'm not expecting you to use that for your research because it's not going to give you accurate case law. It's not going to give you accurate statute, and I need you to do the work for yourself. So, yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think when I'm doing research for books, nothing beats talking to someone. Like I'm a criminal lawyer, I say professionally, my prior job. I don't practice now, but I was a criminal lawyer for like 20 years in criminal law. And even though I write police procedurals, I write crime fiction, I don't know everything. I know about how to prepare a criminal defense case. I know how to break down a prosecution case. Like I know the law, but there were certain things I didn't know in terms of police procedural. So I have friends who are police officers. It's things to talk to them. And even if you don't know anyone personally, like I think I needed to speak to a pathologist and I couldn't get hold of one that I knew. And I think back in the day when Twitter was decent, and I think I put in a request on Twitter and then someone got in touch with me and I was able to ask them all these questions. And then they said, I can show you pictures. And I was like, I don't want to see pictures because I'm a bit squeamish, even though I write the stuff I write. So nothing beats actually talking to someone. You'll always find someone to talk to about a area of expertise that will help you with your book. So I'm reading your comment. I ain't got my glasses on either, which is a bit silly. So I work a 40-hour job. I'm a physicist that is also working on a unified theory of physics that is very submission. And I write constantly for Substack. I don't have more hours in the day. No, we don't. We don't. Yeah. Sometimes I think, do you think like as writers now that there is a pressure more, to be visible more? I think there is. I think some people can feel they need to be they need to be visible, so they are writing for Substack. I mean, and to be honest, my Substack, I was trying to do a Substack each week. And sometimes it just wasn't possible because, Substack is not my main job. I wish it was. Actually, no, I don't. That's a lie. I don't wish it was. But it's not my main job. I can't give 100% to it because I have to write books because they need to pay my bills. And sometimes I teach. So I understand there was not enough hours in the day. But I think when it comes to being visible as a writer, I always say you don't have to be everywhere. I mean, I'm doing this Substack live because actually I enjoy it. I enjoy chatting away for half an hour, and I'm going to get off soon because I've got an event to prepare for tomorrow. I've got to get my questions sorted. I say because I'm interviewing Linwood Barkley and Andrew Child tomorrow. And what was I even saying? Yeah, that's it. So I'm saying you don't have to be everywhere. So I enjoy Substacks. I enjoy writing my Substacks. I enjoy doing my podcast because I have a podcast as well. I enjoy recording my podcast, talking to different writers. I enjoy doing my podcast for Substack when I can. But I don't. I used to enjoy Twitter back in the day. I used to love Twitter, but then it turned to shit, so I don't like Twitter anymore. But I think you just need to I need to be everywhere. So I'm on Substack, I'm on Instagram. And because of Instagram, I'm on Threads, but I don't use Threads as much because I just find the advice on there is crazy. People on there just seem, yeah, they're a little bit nuts on there. Um, I like Blue Sky. Blue Sky feels like old school Twitter. So I like, so I like Blue Sky. I'm on TikTok, but I'm not a prolific poster on TikTok. I'm on it, but yeah. But I find mediums like this suits me. And I think as a writer, you just have to, well, not just a writer, any creative. If you're a bit of an introvert, you don't really want to be on every social platform. You just need to find the one that resonates more with you, the one that fits with your personality. And if just posting 300 characters on Blue Sky fits with you, do that. If you just want to post pictures, don't even need to be in the pictures. But you just want to post pictures or just show what you're reading, go on Instagram. But I do think when you do have situations like Luke Bateman, as I said, who suddenly gets a book deal after being on TikTok for 2 months and amassing 175,000 plus followers. I think writers, whether you're a new writer, been doing it for 10 years, you feel like there's a pressure on you, like, I need to be doing more, I need to be more visible. This is why things aren't working for me. And that's not fair. That's not nice, really. So this has been fun. I've enjoyed talking to you, going off my little tangents. So I'm going to leave you now. So unless you've got any more questions that you want to ask me about anything, I will say goodbye. But I'm going to try and do, now that I'm back on my road to recovery, yeah, I've been off, technically I'll be back for work on Monday. But I'll be back next week properly. I'm gonna try and do a Subset Live like every Thursday afternoon around this time, which is 2:00 British summer time. I don't know what time that is what time that is Eastern. Is that 10? I think it's 10. 10 or 9, I don't know. But I'm gonna try and do these more regularly on a Thursday. Just to have a chat. So I'm going to say goodbye. Unless there's anything you want to ask. You're welcome. Sharing my very, very, very random thoughts. I'm looking around to see what's going on, but yeah, my very random thoughts. But my advice to all read. Oh, just about 10 Eastern. Thank you, bathroom guy. I was trying to work it out. Yeah, but my advice to you, that's all right. Is read. When we say read, it's not a lazy answer. Read, and I say read everything. Read everything. Because I'm looking at my table right now, and I've got rom-coms. Love a rom-com. I've got my comic books. I'm so behind with my comic book reading though. It's just ridiculous. I'm just collecting them at this point. So yeah, it really is disgusting. I'm looking at my bookshelf. So just read widely because I will still maintain this. there's no better feeling than coming up with your own original idea. There's no better feeling than when you write yourself out of a corner, when you've been stuck for ages and then it just comes to you, there's the answer. There's no better feeling when your character does something unexpectedly on the page. And you're like, wow, I was not expecting that because you did that. AI didn't do that. You did that. So, yeah, read a lot. Let me know what you're reading. At the moment, I'm just finishing off. I'll show you what I'm reading. I'm just finishing Lee Child and Andrew Child's new book, In Too Deep. I'm just finishing that. Like I said, so I'm interviewing I'm interviewing Andrew Child tomorrow. And then I've got an Attica Locke book that I need to finish. And then because I'm interviewing a bunch of writers, I can't remember their names now, so terrible. But I'm chairing a panel at Harrogate in July. I have about 4. I'm going to show you. I'll be back. I'm back. I dropped my Kindle also. So I am interviewing these writers in later on in July. So I got this one to read by Clea Cough. It's called Deadly Evidence. Got this one to read, Definitely Dead by Kate Bendlow. Got Body Overboard by Russell Waite. And I have, what's this one called? Oh, God, terrible. Story, because it's reverse. Story of a Murder by Hayley Rubenhold. Hayley's lovely. So I have these. And also I have another 4 books. Well, technically about 3, maybe 2, because I've read the others already, because I'm judging prize. So I have a couple more books in my list too. So I'm busy. I'm busy. But also, as I said, I read comics. So this is my latest delivery. Batman Hush 2. Right. I'm going to go. Have a lovely day. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, next time I'm on, get your questions ready and we'll have another one of these Ask Me Anythings. Bye.